The training arena shook like a waking beast. The Colossus mech took one step, and the deck plates hummed. Blue light poured from its plasma cleaver. It swung. The air sizzled. Heat rippled. Juno Vale kept moving. Small frame. Quiet breath. Sharp eyes. She watched the angles. She counted the beats. 1, 2, 3. The cleaver roared past her face and left a bright scar in the air. She slipped under it like smoke. Initiate attack. Instructor Kale called from the gallery. His voice was cool steel. Find the opening. Inside the mech, Cadet Hark trusted the machine. Lenses tracked Juno from 12 directions. Predictive code guessed her next step before she took it. Hydraulics added speed where muscles would fail. The suit moved like a falling tower. Slow to start. Impossible to stop. Juno fainted at the knee. The mech's legs snapped away. The cleaver swept low and wide. She jumped, boots skimming the flat of the glowing blade for half a heartbeat. She pushed off, flipped, and sailed past the mech's shoulder. For a breath, everything lined up. She saw the soft spot on the back. A power conduit. Barely shielded. One clean strike could end it. A hidden arm popped from the mech's chest. It was a short, ugly limb with a heavy plate at the end. Hark had held it back all match. He swung once. It met Juno in midair and swatted her out of the sky. She hit the deck hard. The world rang. Her blade emitter skittered away and died with a weak hiss. The Colossus stomped toward her. The cleaver hovered an inch from her throat. Point, Kale said. Final. Cold. Juno lay still. She felt the metal through her spine. She counted her ribs with each slow breath. Then she rolled to her side and pushed herself up. Everything ached. The mech's pilot offered a thick, armored hand. She ignored it and stood on her own. On the way out, she passed a display case. A single trophy sat under a bright white light. Two stylized blades twisted together like a double helix. The Helion Academy doubles prize. The plaque said, Perfect synchrony. Juno stopped. Her fingers tightened on the worn grip of the practice hilt. The bones in her hand protested. Her mind did not. A plan came fast and dangerous. Win that trophy. Claim the right that comes with it. Leverage. Protection. A voice in her head said it was reckless. The other voice said it was necessary. Master of Swords Vesk called her to his office. One wall held ancient paper books. Another showed the 8 classic forms, frozen mid-strike. Vesk's plates shone like polished stone. Vertical pupils narrowed as he studied her. Your reflexes are exceptional, he said. Graphs floated in the air. Heart rate, muscle output, reaction times. All high. But here, 2 columns flashed red. Right hand, peak. Left hand, a fraction behind. That delay is hardwired. Biology sets limits. He folded his long fingers. A single mind cannot coordinate 2 complex energy blades at full speed. The cognitive load is too high. The hemispheres drift. The delay kills. Dual wielding is a myth. No species can. Juno did not argue. She drew her right-hand emitter and lit it. Blue fire grew with a soft snap. The hum filled the room. Vesk's face did not change. She reached to the small of her back. Her left hand found a second emitter, the mirror of the first. She breathed once. She lit it too. The second hum joined the first and made a low, steady chord. Light washed over the polished floor. Vesk's jaw loosened. He said nothing. Juno moved. Not the academy forms. Not the old grammar on the walls. Her own language. Tight steps. Short spins. Right blade high, left blade low. One thrust forward. One arc to cover the retreat. The twin flows braided and unbraided in perfect timing. The sabers wrote blue lines through the air. They never touched the books. They never touched the master. But the message was loud. She ended with both blades crossed against her chest. Her lungs burned. Sweat ran down her temple. A small disc under her hairline gave a faint pulse against the skin of her neck. It beat in time with her heart. It had cost nights, blood, and quiet tears. It was a neural synchronizer. A metronome for the brain. A steady drum that told both hands the same truth at the same time. The summons came an hour later. Head Sword Master Fenrir wanted her at the spire. The view there cut across the black. The walls were lined with trophies from a dozen systems. Fenrir stood thin and elegant, with the soft click of prosthetics whispering when he turned. Juno expected expulsion, or a suspension that would end her career. Instead, Fenrir smiled like a blade. Ingenious, he said, and disallowed. He placed a demerit on her record with a graceful tap. Then, As if offering mercy, he fixed her with pale eyes. For the doubles tournament, he said, you will have a partner. Corbran. Talvin. Master of shields in theory, hesitant in practice. Your fire needs an anchor. Juno left the spire with the city of metal curving beneath the windows and the stars watching above. Her cheek still throbbed from hitting the deck. Her pride throbbed more. The trophy's twin blades burned in her memory. The rule said no one could wield two. Her hands had already answered. Define can't, she thought, and kept walking. The next morning, the training dome was cold and bright. Thin sunlight spilled through the skylight panels and caught on the metal dust that never settled. Juno stood in the center of the arena, her twin emitters clipped at her belt. She was early. She always was. A soft thud echoed from the far doors. Then came Corbran, her new partner. He was massive, even for a Talvin, with dark fur streaked silver at the shoulders and eyes like burnished copper. His steps were careful, almost gentle, as though afraid the ground might break beneath him. He carried a shield generator the size of a man's chest. Cadet Vale, he said, his deep voice a steady vibration. It's an honor. I've read your scores. Don't, Juno said flatly. I don't want pity. He tilted his head, confused. I meant respect. They began their first session in silence. Kale observed from the gallery above, his arms folded. Juno moved first, swift, unpredictable, cutting angles that ignored every rule in the dueling book. Kor responded with textbook precision, building shields where she had been, not where she was going. The result was chaos. Sparks screamed. Energy field shattered. Once, Juno's blade nearly grazed his chest. Another time, his sudden shield projection sent her sprawling into the wall. This isn't working, she growled, deactivating both emitters. You think like a wall. I move like a storm. And storms destroy themselves if they have no ground, Kor replied calmly. His fur bristled with static. Let's try again. The second round lasted longer. Not better, but longer. By the end, both were breathing hard. Juno's hair stuck to her forehead. Kor's shield emitter smoked faintly. Kale's voice came through the comm enough. Coordination rating, 12%. Disgraceful. You're dismissed. Kor lowered his head. I'll analyze the data tonight. Don't bother. Juno snapped, walking past him. I don't need an anchor slowing me down. She left him standing alone, framed by the glowing shields that faded one by one until the room was dark again. That night, Juno couldn't sleep. The pulse of the neural synchronizer at the base of her neck tapped in rhythm with her heartbeat. It was supposed to help her control both hands, but lately it felt like it was the one controlling her. She walked the empty corridor until she found herself outside the library's observation ring. Inside sat Lyra Avon, the Avani tutor she'd been assigned after failing another astrography exam. Lyra looked up briefly, silver eyes gleaming under the light, then returned to her holoscreen. Cadet Vale, Lyra said without looking up. You've missed 3 sessions. Didn't feel like studying. Lyra sighed, then turned her screen toward her. Equations spun like constellations. That's your problem. You see numbers. You should see movement. What? Look. She tapped one line. This isn't a formula, it's a duel. The planet's gravity is an opponent's stance. Your ship's trajectory is your attack. Every burn, a parry, or a thrust. You're not solving math, you're predicting your enemy. The words clicked somewhere deep inside Juno. She looked at the numbers again and saw them shift, orbit lines becoming the elegant curve of combat. The solution appeared clear and simple. Lyra smiled faintly. You see? You just needed to think in motion. Juno looked at her, suddenly aware of the quiet grace in the Avani's movements, the cool intelligence behind her teasing tone. You're dangerous, Juno said softly. Only on paper, Lyra replied. Now go. You have training tomorrow. The next day, Juno found Kor already waiting. He had changed the calibration of his shields. I adapted the timing, he explained. Your rhythm is faster than regulation. So I adjusted mine. When they started again, something shifted. His shields no longer blocked the past. They anticipated her future. A wall appeared just as her enemy would strike. A pulse burst where she needed momentum. Their movements began to sync, storm and anchor, chaos and order. After half an hour, Kale's voice broke the silence. Better. Coordination rating, 63%. Keep it up. Juno turned to Kor, a spark of reluctant respect in her eyes. Not bad, Anchor. He rumbled a laugh. Not bad, Storm. For the first time, Juno smiled. Just a little. As they left the arena, she glanced again at the trophy case. The twin blades gleamed under the lights. Perfect synchrony. She wondered if the meaning was changing. Maybe it wasn't about wielding two blades. Maybe it was about wielding two hearts that moved as one. But deep inside, the pulse at her neck quickened, like a whisper from the machine she had built. A reminder that storms never truly rest. The training chamber was quiet except for the faint hum of power lines and the echo of boots on metal. Juno stood in the center, stretching her shoulders. Across from her, Corbrand checked the readouts on his new shield generator, adjusting the frequency with careful precision. He always worked in silence, methodical and calm. Ready? Juno asked. He nodded once. Always. When the signal tone chimed, the arena burst alive. Energy fields shimmered into existence, marking the simulation space. The air crackled with static. Juno darted forward first, fast, unpredictable, a blur of movement. Her sabers left twin trails of blue light as she wove between holographic targets. Kor's shield projections appeared an instant before each hit, deflecting energy bursts aimed at her flanks. They were improving, but not enough. Your delay's still too long, Juno shouted, spinning past him. You think, then act. Stop thinking. My mind is not built for chaos, he replied calmly, deflecting another blast. And yours is not built for patience. Maybe that's why they paired us, she muttered, slicing through the final hologram. The lights dimmed. Simulation complete. The results flashed on the wall. Coordination rating, 78%. Kor exhaled through his nose, almost a laugh. Progress. Almost. Juno deactivated her blades. We'll hit 100. He looked at her, amused. You sound like you believe it. I don't believe, she said, turning away. I prove. Later, in the engineering lab, Juno examined the neural synchronizer's diagnostics. The small metal disc pulsed faintly under her skin. The readings were erratic. Signal interference, cognitive strain, elevated neural load. She frowned. The synchronizer was working harder than before. Lyra appeared at her shoulder, her silver eyes glowing softly in the low light. Still playing with dangerous toys? It's not a toy, Juno said, closing the console. It's how I survive. Lyra leaned against the table, crossing her arms. You know what happens when the mind splits too far, right? Neural echo. Identity drift. Your brain starts seeing ghosts of itself. Then I'll teach it to dance, Juno replied. Lyra smiled faintly. You're impossible. That's what they said before I proved them wrong. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled when she powered the console down. That evening, Kor found her in the observation deck overlooking the void. Stars filled the window like glitter spilled across black velvet. I analyzed your synchronizer's telemetry, he said. Juno stiffened. You went through my logs? I had to understand the rhythm, he replied gently. That device, it's brilliant, but dangerous. You're forcing your mind to act as two. It's not just a tool, it's a fight inside your skull. She didn't answer. Kor continued. There are safer ways. Shared link combat. If I sync my shield telemetry with your neural rhythm, we could split the load. Your thoughts predict my shields. My sensors predict your moves. Juno turned to him slowly. That's not standard practice. Neither are you. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, soldier and scientist, storm and anchor. Then she nodded once. Do it. He tapped the console on his wrist. The hum of the synchronizer deepened. A thin thread of blue light flickered between his generator and the device under her skin. The world shifted slightly. Her heartbeat echoed in his ears, his breath in hers. For a brief second, their senses blurred into one shared rhythm. Feels strange, Kor murmured. Feels alive, Juno said. The next day's dual test was unlike anything before. The simulation unleashed a dozen drones. Agile, unpredictable, blindingly fast. But this time, Juno and Kor moved as if tied by an invisible thread. A drone fired from above. Kor's shield flared before Juno even shouted. She ducked, spun under the reflection, and slashed through another target. His energy wall pulsed outward, bouncing her forward like a kinetic wave, boosting her speed. She landed, rolled, cut through two more. Their motions formed a perfect loop. Her storm fed his defense. His defense fueled her storm. Kale's voice, watching from the control booth, was almost a whisper. 78 to 94%, impossible. The drones dropped one by one, sparks raining across the deck. When the last fell, silence filled the chamber. Juno deactivated her blades, her chest heaving. Kor stepped beside her, his broad frame gleaming with sweat. He extended one massive hand toward her. We make a good pattern. She hesitated, then took it. We make a storm with walls. He laughed, a deep sound that vibrated in her bones. For the first time since she'd entered Helion Academy, Juno didn't feel alone. The synchronizer hummed softly at her neck, steady, content. But behind that pulse, something else stirred, a faint static whisper she couldn't quite place. A data rhythm not her own. Someone, somewhere, was watching the signal. Night on Helion Station was never truly dark. The city ring pulsed with cold light, rivers of neon curving through the void. Juno stood at her dorm window, staring at the reflection of her own face. Tired eyes, jaw set, the faint silver glow under her skin where the synchronizer pulsed like a second heartbeat. Sleep didn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes. Her mother's final duel, a blue arc, a shout, a blade striking too hard. The official record had called it a mercy bout. But the look in her mother's eyes, in that grainy old clip Juno had replayed 1,000 times, said otherwise. Now, with the tournament nearing, the ghosts were back. The next morning, she and Kor met in the data archives. Rows of hollow terminals blinked quietly under glass floors. Lyra was waiting for them, wrapped in her oversized student robe, her fingers dancing across a console. I've been digging, Lyra said. Your mother's dual logs are sealed under military encryption. Only high-level clearance can access them. Juno frowned. So? Break it. Lyra smirked. That's not hacking. That's a declaration of war. Then declare it. Kor rumbled softly beside them. We should be careful. Secrets buried that deep are buried for a reason. Juno met his eyes. So was she. Lyra sighed, typing faster. Fine. But when the system alarms light up, I'm blaming you. A soft hum filled the air. Code lines flowed like rivers of light. One by one, digital locks fell open. Finally, the screen flashed green. A single file appeared. Cora Vale, final match record. The footage was old and raw. Two duelists faced off in the arena. Cora, tall and fierce, and her opponent, a younger man with the same sharp face Juno now saw every day in the hallways, Master Fanner. Lyra slowed the playback. Watch here. The duel unfolded with elegance and speed. Then, a flicker. A faint green light on Fanner's blade hilt died an instant before the killing strike. Lyra leaned closer. That's the safety dampener. He turned it off. Kor's low growl rumbled through the room. He executed her in a training match. Juno's voice was steady, but cold. Then we make him pay. Lyra met her gaze. You can't challenge a master unless you win the championship. Juno's eyes hardened. Then we win it. They spent the next days in relentless training. Kor built new shield modules, flexible, pulse-based defenses that danced in rhythm with Juno's strikes. Lyra tweaked the synchronizer's frequency, stabilizing the neural link between Juno's hemispheres. The three of them worked like one machine, sharp, sleepless, and alive. But the academy began to notice. During a quiet break, a voice echoed from behind. Impressive work, Cadet Vale. Master Fanner stood in the doorway. His silhouette was calm, too calm. His 6 fingers rested lightly on the hilt at his side. Juno's stomach tightened. Thank you, sir. I hear stories, he said softly. About a human with 2 blades and no restraint. About a girl who thinks she can rewrite the rules of biology. He stepped closer. The air smelled faintly of ozone and metal. Ambition is dangerous, Vale. It burns bright, until it burns out. Her grip tightened on her weapon. Maybe I'm the fire that doesn't die. For a second, something sharp flickered in his eyes. Not anger, not fear, but recognition. Then his polite mask returned. Careful, he said. The last one who said that ended poorly. He left with the slow, deliberate steps of a predator who didn't need to chase. Kor approached quietly after he was gone. He knows, he said. I hope he does, Juno replied. Let him see what's coming. That night, Lyra brought a new datapad to Juno's room. I tracked the payment logs attached to your mother's file, she said. They lead to a private account linked to the Syndicate of Masters. Guess whose signature is on the transfer? Juno didn't answer. She didn't have to. Lyra reached out, touching her hand. If we do this, there's no going back. Juno squeezed her fingers. We passed that line the day he killed her. Core entered then, carrying a data pack of shield components. And we'll need funding. The Academy won't provide it. Lyra smirked. Then we win it off the grid. Juno raised a brow. You mean? The underground dueling pits, Lyra said. Illegal, yes. But profitable. Core sighed. You humans and your chaos. Chaos, Juno said with a small grin, is how stars are born. Hours later, deep in the underbelly of the station, the air was thick with smoke and noise. Makeshift rings glowed with plasma light. Rough spacers shouted bets. Juno stood across from her opponent, a half-mechanical brute named Volker. His left arm gleamed with hydraulic pistons. His eyes burned red. Lyra's voice whispered through the earpiece. The lag in his left arm is 2.4 seconds. Exploit it. When the buzzer rang, Juno moved first. Volker's axe cut wide, fast but predictable. She ducked under, slid close, twin blades flashing. One strike severed his weapon's conduit. Another tap scored the scoring plate over his chest. Silence. Then the crowd exploded. She turned, collected her credits, and walked away. Behind her, Volker's broken weapon hissed with dying heat. They had what they needed: money, proof, and purpose. But Juno knew this was only the beginning. For the first time, the storm had direction, and the galaxy was about to feel its wind. The Helion Grand Arena glowed like a suspended sun. Thousands of lights floated above the dueling platform, shifting through colors as the crowd roared. The air smelled of ozone, sweat, and expectation. Juno Vale and Core Brand stood side by side, their armor glinting under the glare. Across from them waited two Academy combat drones, sleek, silver machines with wings of hard light and minds full of killing code. This was the quarterfinal, and the match was rigged. Lyra's voice crackled in their comms from the control booth. Something's off, she said. The drone's core signals, they're running hot. That's live plasma output. Live. Core rumbled, frowning. That's not allowed. Before Juno could reply, the announcer's voice thundered through the speakers. Commence match. The drones moved instantly. Red plasma flared to life, not the safe blue of training weapons, but burning crimson. The floor scorched where they stepped. Lyra shouted in their ears, "It's a setup. Get out of there." Too late. The drone struck. Juno ignited both blades, blocking the first attack. The impact rattled her bones. Sparks cascaded around her. Core projected a wide shield wall, catching a second blow that sent energy waves rippling across the arena. The crowd gasped, realizing what was happening. The containment fields were flickering. This was no simulation. This was real. Stay behind me. Core roared, bracing his massive frame. His shield shimmered, bending under the heat. They're using lethal output. Juno's eyes burned. Then so will I. She darted from cover, rolling beneath a drone's slash. Her twin sabers flared, carving through its knee joint. The drone stumbled, recovered, and swung again. The blade grazed her shoulder, burning through the armor. Pain exploded, but she moved faster, angrier. She cut through its wrist actuator. One arm dropped, sparking. Core saw an opening and slammed his shield forward, sending a shockwave that hurled the crippled drone into the arena wall. It hit with a sound like thunder, crumpled, and went still. The second drone advanced, faster than thought. Its blade came down toward Core's exposed side. "Core, right flank," Juno shouted. He turned too slow. She saw it happen. The flash, the angle, the certainty of death. The world slowed. Her synchronizer pulsed once, twice, and then her body moved before her brain caught up. She threw herself between them, both sabers spinning. Blue met red in a storm of light. Sparks sprayed. The drone reeled back, surprised by something it couldn't compute, a human outpacing its prediction algorithms. Juno's strikes came like lightning. 1, 2, 3. The final cut severed its power conduit. The machine froze, its core flickering out. Then it collapsed in silence. The crowd erupted. Screams, cheers, disbelief. No one had ever seen a cadet disable live drones and live. Juno fell to one knee, panting. The arena smelled like burnt metal and ionized air. She turned toward Core and froze. His left arm hung useless, charred black from elbow to wrist. The energy had gotten through. She stumbled to him. "Core." He waved her off with his good hand. Shield held long enough. His deep voice was calm, but his face was pale beneath the fur. You finished it. Security rushed in. Medics followed. The match was stopped. The crowd pushed back, the announcer shouting something about technical errors. But everyone knew. This wasn't an accident. Someone wanted them gone. Later, in Lyra's hidden apartment, the air was heavy and quiet. Kor sat on a metal bench, his injured arm wrapped in a glowing brace. He worked silently, repairing his shield emitter one-handed. Sparks danced as he welded a new connection. Juno sat nearby, staring at her sabers, their hilts still scorched. Lyra typed on her datapad, eyes darting. They'll blame it on a malfunction, Lyra said finally. But those drones were manually overridden. Someone turned off their safeties. Juno's jaw clenched. Fenner. Most likely, Lyra said softly. But we can't accuse him without proof. Kor looked up. We already have proof. The payment logs, your mother's file. It's enough. Not yet, Juno said. If we go public now, they'll bury it under politics. We need to finish this. We need the championship. Lyra turned her chair toward her. You're hurt. He's hurt. The synchronizer is overloading your brain. You could die in that final match. Juno met her gaze, calm but fierce. Then I'll die proving we were right. Lyra's expression softened. She stepped closer, her voice low. You sound like your mother. That name broke something inside Juno. The steel in her voice faltered. I'm scared, Lyra, she whispered. I don't want to lose anyone else. Lyra reached up, touching the scar beneath the synchronizer. Then don't fight alone. Their eyes met, close enough that the glow from Lyra's pupils reflected in Juno's. The noise of the station faded away. For a long, fragile moment, the storm was quiet. Then Kor cleared his throat. If you two are finished rewriting the rules of physics and romance, I found something. He turned the datapad around. The hologram displayed the payment log from Juno's mother's duel, and an additional transfer, hidden behind encrypted code. Lyra leaned forward. That's new. It was time-stamped after the malfunction, Kor said. Fenner's account. He's paying someone again. Juno stared at the glowing numbers. He's cleaning up his mess. Lyra exhaled. Then we're out of time. Outside the viewport, Helion's twin moons drifted like silent witnesses. The final tournament match loomed, and with it, the moment that would decide everything. Juno looked down at her sabers, their edges reflecting the cold starlight. Her voice was steady when she spoke. This time, I'm not fighting for revenge, she said. I'm fighting for truth. The synchronizer pulsed once, a heartbeat of resolve. Tomorrow, the fire would return to the arena. And this time, it wouldn't stop until the lies burned away with it. Helion Station hung silent in orbit, a silver ring spinning above the blue-gray planet below. But inside its heart, the Academy's research sector, everything was chaos. Juno Vale stood frozen in her quarters, staring at the message on her hollow slate. A shaky video feed played over and over again. Lyra, bound to a medical chair, wires at her temples, eyes half closed. The sterile light above her flickered. Then came the voice, smooth, deliberate, cold. Cadet Vale, said Master Fenner. I admire persistence. But curiosity is a dangerous hobby. The camera turned slightly. His six-fingered hand adjusted a control on the console beside Lyra. A faint pulse ran through the wires at her head, and she gasped, not in pain, but in fear. You will surrender the data you stole, Fenner continued, and forfeit tomorrow's championship. Walk away, and your friend will live to study another day. The feed cut to black. A timer appeared, 1 hour. Juno didn't move. The only sound was the ticking of the synchronizer under her skin. A pulse. A countdown. When Kor arrived, the room was dark. Juno. She turned toward him slowly. Her eyes looked hollow, the eyes of someone who had already made a decision. He has her, she said. Fenner's holding Lyra. Kor's expression hardened. Then we go get her. No, he said. I heard what he said. Kor interrupted, his deep voice shaking the walls. You think surrendering will save her? You know men like him don't bargain, they clean their tracks. She looked away, shaking her head. You don't understand. I understand loyalty, Kor growled. And I don't leave my team behind. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she raised her head. Where? He handed her a datapad. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a map of the station's lower sectors. I tracked her synchronizer signature. Faint, but it's there, in a private syndicate clinic beneath the engineering ring. Juno stared at the coordinates. That's restricted. Core smiled faintly. So are we. The corridor lights flickered as they descended into the maintenance tunnels. Core led the way, his heavy footsteps soundless thanks to dampened boots. Juno followed, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had fought drones, mechs, even death itself, but this was different. This was personal. At the end of a narrow passage, Core stopped at a sealed door. This connects to the clinic's main conduit, he whispered. Once we're in, everything goes fast. He pressed his broad hand against the panel and overrode the lock. The door hissed open. Inside, the air smelled of sterilized fear. Rows of medical pods lined the walls, dim blue lights spilling across polished floors. In the center sat Lyra, still bound to the neuralysis chair. Her head jerked slightly as she stirred. Lyra! Juno rushed forward, tearing the restraints off her wrists. Her pulse pounded in her ears. It's me. You're okay. Lyra blinked up at her, confused. Juno? You shouldn't. Too late, Juno said, pulling the last wire free. We're leaving. But before they could move, alarms blared. A red light flashed through the room. Fenner's voice echoed through the intercom. How very human of you, he said, his tone calm, almost amused. Charging in blind, led by emotion. Predictable. Juno's teeth clenched. I've been called worse. Indeed, Fenner replied. Let's see if you survive this one. A heavy door opened across the room. 2 security drones rolled out, their shields glowing crimson. Core moved instantly. Go, he shouted, stepping forward, shield projector flaring alive. The first drone fired. Plasma bolts slammed against the barrier. Juno pulled Lyra behind a console, igniting one saber. Blue light cut through red shadows. Cover him, Lyra shouted, her voice still weak but sharp with focus. She snatched a fallen console cable and connected it to her wrist link. I can scramble their targeting, but only for a few seconds. Juno charged. She leapt onto the first drone, slicing through its arm joint. Sparks exploded. Core rammed the second drone into the wall, his shield crackling. Lyra yelled, now! Juno spun midair, twin blades crossing in an arc of blue flame. The drones collapsed. Smoke filled the chamber. When the last spark faded, silence returned, except for Lyra's trembling breath. You came for me, she whispered. Of course I did, Juno said softly. You're my compass. Lyra smiled faintly, then swayed. We have to go? Fenner won't stop here. Core connected his slate to the clinic terminal. I'm triggering a containment drill, he said. Biohazard protocol. It'll force an evacuation across the whole sector. Within seconds, alarms screamed louder. Doors opened automatically. Workers fled through emergency tunnels. Move, Core ordered. The trio slipped into the chaos, a Talvan giant, a human storm, and a wounded princess hiding behind the mask of a scientist. By the time they reached the surface tram, the emergency lights were flashing amber. Through the windows, the station's outer rings glowed like embers in the dark. Lyra leaned against Juno, still pale. He won't forgive this, she said quietly. Fenner will come for us. Juno looked out at the stars. Then he'll find out what happens when humans stop running. She turned to Core. Tomorrow, we finish it. Championship or not, he's done. Core gave a grim nod. Then tomorrow, he said, his voice like thunder, the storm breaks. Outside, the void was silent, but Helion Station felt smaller, tighter, as though the air itself knew something was coming. And somewhere, in the depths of the spire, Master Fenner watched the same stars, his fingers resting on the scar Juno's mother had once given him. He smiled, faint and cruel. Let the storm come, he whispered. I built the lightning. The Helion Grand Arena shimmered like a burning star. Thousands had gathered, cadets, instructors, dignitaries, even off-world nobles. Floating hollow banners displayed the final match of the Academy Doubles Championship. For most, it was sport. For Juno Vale, it was Judgment Day. She stood with Core Bran at the edge of the platform. Her sabers hung silent at her sides. Across the floor, 2 massive duelists waited. Fenner's hand-picked champions, cybernetically enhanced veterans who had once fought in real wars. Their armor gleamed black as obsidian, and their blades hummed like thunderclouds ready to split. Lyra watched from the control booth, pale but steady. Beneath her fingertips glowed a hidden console wired to the arena's main screen. Juno caught her gaze through the glass and gave the smallest nod. Fenner himself presided from the judge's tower. His six-fingered hand rested on the railing, too casual. He looked down at Juno and smiled. A predator's smile. The announcer's voice echoed through the dome. Final match, commence. The champions moved first, blindingly fast. One struck low, the other high, blades flaring red. Kor reacted, his shield flaring into a wide arc of light. Sparks showered. Juno rolled beneath the first strike and countered with twin blue sabers, slashing across a shoulder joint. The hit connected, shallow but real. The crowd gasped. The second champion charged. Kor pivoted, projecting a concussive pulse that staggered both attackers. Left flank, he barked. I'm on it. Juno replied, already moving. She vaulted over his shield, her sabers a blur. Blue arcs carved twin trails through the air. Her movements were pure instinct, human chaos guided by precision. The synchronizer at her neck pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Faster, faster. For a moment, she felt everything. Kor's balance, Lyra's breathing through the comms, the hum of the arena field. They moved as one living weapon. One champion fell, his blade spinning away. The second roared and struck back, his armor sparking where Juno's blades had bitten deep. But Kor was there, slamming his shield forward with a thunderous impact that sent the opponent reeling. Juno finished it, a spinning arc, blue meeting red, then silence. Both opponents down. The arena erupted. Cheers shook the air. Juno deactivated her sabers, chest heaving, sweat streaking her jawline. Kor stood beside her, shield cracked, but glowing proudly. The lights dimmed as Master Fenner descended from his tower, his expression unreadable. In his hands, the championship trophy gleamed, two intertwined energy blades. He stopped before them, voice amplified across the dome. An extraordinary display of creativity, he said slowly. You've earned this victory. He held out the trophy. Then, with deliberate precision, he asked the ritual question every winner was offered. Do you, Cadet Vale, wish to issue a master's challenge? The arena hushed. Even the drones paused mid-hover. Juno stared up at him. For a heartbeat, everything was still, the crowd, the lights, her pulse. Then she spoke. No, Master Fenner, she said, her voice calm but carrying through the dome. I don't challenge a man. She turned to face the audience, eyes burning. I challenge the system. The main screen behind her flickered to life. Fenner's confident smile faltered. On the display appeared the hollow footage Lyra had prepared, Juno's mother's final duel. The same green light dying on Fenner's hilt. The illegal payment record scrolling beneath it. Protocol suspension, authorized by Master Fenner. Gasps filled the air. The image froze on Fenner's face from decades ago, younger, but unmistakable. Lyra's voice came through the speakers. This academy hit a murderer and called it tradition. Chaos erupted. Fenner's composure cracked. Shut it down, he roared, spinning toward the control tower. Guards moved, but Kor stepped forward, his massive form blocking their path. Fenner turned back to Juno. You think this proves anything? His hand went to his hilt. You think justice comes from the weak? He ignited his blade, full power, red-hot plasma. The crowd screamed. Juno didn't move. Justice comes from what's left standing, she said softly, and raised her sabers. He lunged. A blur of speed. His strikes were vicious, refined, filled with decades of hate. But Juno was faster, not stronger, not even smarter, just freer. She ducked, rolled, countered. His blade came down in a killing arc, and Kor moved, throwing his shield between them. The impact thundered. Blue met red. The shield flared, nearly shattered. Fenner staggered, off balance for the first time. Juno seized the moment. She stepped forward and struck, not with her saber's edge, but with its hilt. One clean, controlled blow to the wrist. Bone cracked. Fenner's weapon fell. Security swarmed the floor. Fenner shouted, fought, but it was over. The system had seen him, and this time, the system couldn't look away. Days passed. The syndicate was dismantled. Fenner was stripped of rank, facing trial under Avani oversight. Lyra, her true identity as Princess Orana of Avani, revealed herself publicly, declaring reforms to the academy. Kor's arm healed slowly, his shield redesigned into a new kind of defensive art. Juno's name spread across the stars, the human who had challenged the unchallengeable. In her small dorm, Juno packed a single bag. The two sabers rested on the desk, silent. Lyra entered quietly. Leaving. For now, Juno said. I've been fighting someone else's war. Time to find my own sky. Lyra stepped closer. The royal guard could use a strategist with your instincts. Juno smiled faintly. You mean you could? Lyra didn't deny it. She just reached out, took Juno's hand, and held it. Then come. Kor appeared in the doorway, grinning his slow, calm grin. If you two plan to destroy another empire, at least give me a head start. Juno laughed softly. She picked up her sabers, studied their glow one last time, then handed them to Kor. Maybe you can build something that saves lives instead of taking them, she said. Kor nodded solemnly. I already have. It's called faith. Juno turned toward the viewport. The stars waited, endless and alive. She took Lyra's hand. Let's see what's next. The door slid open. The storm had passed. But in its wake, the galaxy was finally listening. And somewhere in the silence between worlds, the whisper of twin blades still echoed, a human heartbeat defying the impossible.